Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this particular video, I will be discussing the layers of consciousness that which you might find at the molecular level. And in order to do so, we must analyze it from the cellular perspective of things, if you wish. Now imagine at the cellular level, you have a central core to said cell, known as the mitochondria. And at the mitochondria is where the essential relaying or consciousness central point is held within said cell. You could say it is the cell's brain, telling the rest of the cell, okay, based on this, this is what we are doing. Similar to you and your brain in that particular sense. Now imagine, at the cellular level, you find that there is an exchange of energy, whether it be a destruction of said energy or a replication of said energy, a process of life and death, if you wish. But in the process of said energy transfer, you find that in the process of osmosis, a cell intakes energy to sustain its energy, but the moment the cell no longer sustains its energy, it releases that energy then back outwards. In this process of energy, you could say if the energy is not carried within said cell or entering said cell to sustain said cell, it is then exiting said cell to then sustain another. And this is a basis process surrounding the energy transfer of the entire universe. If one particular thing is not feeding on another form of energy, then it itself is not sustaining itself. And if it is not sustaining itself, then it is becoming a new food source for another greater energy to feed up off of it. Now, if you were to look at this process, also known as the consciousness osmosis process, because even at the cellular level, you could find that the consciousness a cell has is a reflection of a larger consciousness, simply at a divided state, a fractal division of sorts, if you wish, at the same potential rate. Which means if you yourself are a conscious individual as a human being, to what level are your cells just as conscious as you? Well, that depends. Let's look at it from the perspective of your emotions now. Which emotions alter a process within the physics of said biology and physiology and psychology, altering the very chemistry known as atomic mass. I want you to perceive for a moment and stick to this particular notion going forward in your life now. But in the concept of atomic mass, you could find that according to the level of energy that is absorbed within a cell, the cell takes on a denser atomic mass. It becomes of a atomic weight, shifting in atomic mass without ever shifting in the aspect of its physical weight, but it takes on a denser pull, a denser feel. This is what is known as your emotions. I want you to perceive now, every time you feel a shift in your emotions, how you feel your body takes on a different feel in weight. And when you feel sad, you feel tremendously depressed, compressed within said state of atomic mass, which atomic mass carries energy, a storing of energy within the very molecular structure The denser the molecule, the denser the cell, the denser the overall being. And this is as a result of, once again, the osmosis process of energy, which through this energy you find is where the seat of consciousness essentially lies. If the consciousness is not within said individual, it is outside of said individual. But if it is not outside of said individual, it is within said individual. The question is, at which rate is this exchange happening? Because just as you have consciousness inside yourself, you can very well much put that said consciousness outwards through your vocal resonance, but the same can be said through the echolocation process of things. And in this particular analysis, we might find that consciousness is the entirety of said cellular energy, which you yourself are made of cells. And so regarding the question of how conscious are your cells, well, that's a brilliant question, isn't it? Because if you yourself are made of said consciousness as an entire being, from each particular cell taking on a larger cell known as a body, at this particular point you can argue that the question regarding where is consciousness, it is just as much outside of itself as it is within itself. The question is, at which rate is this particular transfer manifesting itself in life? And this begs the question to you as a viewer. Are you truly living your life anymore? And how much can you improve from that said perspective? The moment you understand the basis of the seat of consciousness, you begin to see you have so much more potential behind every single action, every single word, every single thought. Because this is where the process of osmosis is essentially created for a larger cell. If consciousness is not being intaken, then it is being outgiven through the vocal resonance. But this process mimics itself once again within a replication of an inner layer within said consciousness, within said cell, which you as a body have the exact same function. And this is where the beauty of understanding the seat of consciousness within the molecular structure sits. Because once you understand this, well, you can actively say there's a scientific way of proving that God is real. Because said consciousness is present throughout everything. This said energy is present throughout everything. It is present through you, it is present outside of you. And it is present within you, once again, in and without you. Anyways, folks, thank you for watching. Till next time.